Well, hello everyone, Morgan here, and today we're going to be talking about how to teach kids survival and preparedness skills. So I've been teaching my kids since they were born, and I just think it was just like a natural thing for us to do, right? Like it's just, well, I'm a prepper and survivalist, I'm going to teach them these things too. I've been teaching them knife and fire and all these things probably way earlier than most people would. You need to teach your kids, okay, preparedness and survival skills. It will make them well-rounded and they'll be the hit at the next camping adventure, right? So the first one is to make it fun and engaging. So when it comes to skills, make it a family affair, right? So whenever we go out and make a fire in the solo stove, let's say, we get the kids involved. Say, hey, let's go get some sticks. Okay, do you want to, let's make the fire together. Let's, these are the fire starters we're going to be using. And we, I show them all this stuff. And then I have them do it. I say, why don't you unravel the fire starter, whatever needs to be done. Do you want to try this match? And they try the match. Whether they actually get the fire started, with the match is one thing, but they are involved in the entire process. And we just make it fun. It is what it is, right? So when my firstborn was 1 year old, I pulled out a bug out bag for her that she could start carrying. It's just this little tiny bag. It was so cute. And she made this little bug out bag all her own because I was inventorying mine, and I was like, hey, let's make your bug out bag. And I told her, I said, you can go pick out one toy. You can go pick out your clothes, these kinds of things. And she was so excited to do that. And then I finished, the rest of the bag for her. It was just like a couple things. It was like a couple diapers, some clothes, and like a toy, like a flashlight and glow stick for her. That's really all she needed in her bug out bag at the time. But we made it fun and engaging for her, right? And that's what I've done for all my kids. And for my youngest, who's 2 months old, she'll be getting a bug out bag soon. Make it fun and engaging for them, okay? When it comes to any skills, whatever you're doing in the preparedness world, survival world, whatever, involve them. So the next one is hands-on learning. So yes, you want them to be around whatever you're doing, but you want them to be hands-on. Like the example of the bug out bag. I brought the bag out. I wasn't just showing her what I was doing. I told her, hey, let's go pick out a toy for this. Hey, this is what we're doing. We're building a bag for emergencies. Do you like, what kind of food do you like? Go ahead and pack this bag. I would open it up and she'd stuff the stuff in. It's getting them experience. Whether they actually understand what's happening is a whole other thing depending on their age. Obviously, as they get older, they understand better, right? But you want them to be as hands-on as possible. During the canning process, have them peel some apples, right? During, fire making, again, have them collect the sticks, the bug out bag, have them, collect some of their stuff. Get them hands-on experience. Simply telling them about this stuff is not enough. You need them to actually do it. Teach them the basics on an everyday level, right? So when we're at the grocery store, we're going to say, hey, where are the exits? What kind of doors and windows do you see? What is that person wearing? I always have to tell my 5-year-old, eyes up, because she's always looking at her feet and trying to jump over things and having fun like that. She's just trying to have fun. But I'm always telling her, eyes up, pay attention, eyes up, pay attention. So, it's always reinforcing these things. She's getting better, but anyway, we are teaching situational awareness every single time we're outside. That's a real world practical situation. And so whenever we're out and about, like in the woods or something, we'll talk about animals and we'll talk about, shelter options. My oldest, because we've made so many shelters and done these survival-y things, she always wants to go out and make shelters in the wood. And she sees these survival shows. She's like, Mom, you could be a survivalist, right? And she wants to do these things with me because we've just been doing it, right? The wild edibles. Get them involved in these kinds of things and teach them these real world things. Whenever I talk about wild edibles and kids, people get always really weird. They're like, oh, well, you can't let kids eat this stuff. I'm like, well, if I think it's 100% positive and I'm good and I know and I've identified it and I know that this is edible, my child can eat it too, right? Of course, I know, to be careful with any wild edibles for me, especially for my kids. I'm not going to give my kids something that they can't eat. And I've made it very clear to them. Do not eat anything unless I tell you that it is good to eat. And they know that. They don't even touch plants. They'll ask me to touch plants. Like, can I touch this? Because sometimes there are certain plants that you touch that can irritate your skin or something like that. So, and now to this day, whenever we're hiking, they say, what's this plant? What's this plant? What's this plant? And they ask me because we've talked about plants just in a very open way. And they are now engaged and involved in plants, right? Because I've always just talked about it. We've eaten wild edibles and they think it's really cool. So we talk about bugs and animals and plants and all these kinds of things. And that is survival basic as much as building a fire, right? Identifying plants and animals. So when we're learning survival skills, it's all about encouraging problem solving, right? So when they're building that fire and it's not happening, let's problem solve. Okay, could we build this fire differently? Is this match just not working, right? Is this fire starter not working? Is the wood not dry enough, right? Is it not built properly? So all these little things are teaching them problem solving techniques. And so it teaches them problem solving skills in life. One of the ones that we like to do when we're hiking is, if you got lost, what would you do? And this is a really big one. And every time we're out, we ask them, they're like, oh, we'd stay put, we'd use our whistle, whatever, right? So we always ask them these things. What can you find around you that you could help you stay warm? If you had to build a shelter, what would you build it with? Like all these little questions, right? And then eventually, we get out there and then we actually do it. But, it's to get them thinking, oh, what would I do in these type of situations? What if questions for kids are fantastic. Every single day we ask our kids what if questions at the dinner table or just throughout the day. Like, what would you do if this? Or, especially with like stranger danger and stuff like this, we don't call it stranger danger. We call it tricky people. We say, what if somebody came up to you and said, hey, I have a bunch of puppies in my, van. Do you want to come see them? Would you go? And I just ask them these little questions. Some of it seems outrageous, right? Like, nobody's ever going to come up to me and, whatever. But it gets them thinking and it gets them understanding that there are tricky people out there who may want to do tricky things, whether it's a relative or, a complete stranger. And I tell them that it doesn't matter if you know this person or if it's somebody you don't know, there are tricky people. And so that's another good what if situation. What would you do if this? So as I was talking before, practice in real world situations. Bring them out into the world. When you go make a fire, have them involved in making a fire. When you're, canning, have them can with you. Cook with them. Teach them all these invaluable skills right there with you. My kids are baking bread with me. They're doing all these things with me, engaged with me, and the whole family. And it makes it a lot more real than just looking at it in a book or something like that. Like, we're physically actively doing it so they get the ideas and the concepts. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm a hands-on learner. My kids are definitely hands-on learners as well. And I think most people are in general. Like, most people will say, oh, I learn better by watching. But really, you learn, I think every single person really learns best when they get their physical hands on it and know and actually does it. That is solidifying, it's taking away that fear, it's taking away, the intimidation, and it's actually getting you involved in it. And you're going, okay, that wasn't so bad, right? It's a lot like ham radio. People are very intimidated by taking the test and they don't know how to use it and all these things. But you just have to get hands-on learning and education, and then you really start to learn it. So overall, during this entire thing, you want to instill a sense of responsibility. So when we're talking about the fire and stuff like that, we do tell them, hey, fire is hot and we want to respect fire, right? We don't want to run around the fire. We don't want to, I realize this is casting like a mad shadow on me. We don't want to run around the fire. We don't want to be dangerous around the fire. We want to have a healthy respect of the fire, right? And so we're always careful around the fire. We treat it with respect. And that's how I, teach them about fire. And that's the same thing with like knife safety. You want to have a healthy respect of your knife because it is sharp and it does have the potential to hurt you if you use it irresponsibly, right? And so we teach them these little senses of responsibility instead of, well, if you use this wrong, it's going to hurt you and you're going to, bleed to death. Like, don't do that, don't instill that kind of fear in them, but definitely make them aware that certain things have a certain responsibility, but not fear, right? So again, those what if situations are really going to be helpful. Getting hands-on, practice and that kind of stuff is really going to take that fear away and give them a sense of pride and responsibility. And then keep building their skills over time. So when it comes to children, they're going to be doing, a certain task at certain ages. Now, I have definitely given my kids larger responsibilities at earlier ages, right? So like when my kid was like a year and a half, almost 2 probably, I had her using like a little butter knife to cut up some strawberries. I've taught my kids knife safety, fire safety, all these things at very young ages, because I think that this is very important that they know this stuff, because this is our lifestyle, right? And I've had them help in so many different ways, and I've shown them that this is not stuff to be feared. So we want to keep building those skills over time. So while I may have built a shelter around them with them just kind of hanging out at a very young age, now that they're older, they can help me build shelters, right? They can help us put up the tent. They can help us, potentially fish. They could help us, identify wild edibles. And I will tell you what, I have identified certain wild edibles so much that my oldest now says, hey, that's such and such, right? And gives me a lot of pride, right? So you think that your kids aren't listening. They are. They're paying attention. As much as you think they aren't, they are. Kids see everything. They hear everything. And one day, they're just going to say something. You're going to be like, oh my goodness, that's right. Right? So just keep instilling it. Keep building their skills. Keep at it. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that this has been helpful. I hope you've really liked our clips of our kids doing all these fun things. And I would love to hear what kind of skills you're teaching your kids. Let me know down in the comments. Be sure to like and comment. It really does help this channel. Thank you all so much for watching. Conquer Tomorrow by Preparing Today. Bye-bye.